ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November 2017 Nextier Power Dialogue. My name is Patrick Okibo. I'm the principal partner at Nextier. Nextier is a public sector advisory firm. Whilst we focus on power, which is what you probably know us for, there are other things we do as well. We spend a lot of time thinking about broad governance challenges in Nigeria, and we engage with key actors to seek solutions to these challenges. The theme for the November 2017 dialogue is Women Empowered, and very soon you'll know why we chose that topic. But every third Wednesday of the month, we meet here to share ideas on the power sector, to seek ways to input into the policy process in the sector, to advocate for policy options, and also to create a forum for networking. And our desire is that before you leave here tonight, you would have exchanged business cards with at least 10 people, and that you follow up with the network to see where that leads. This month, we'll focus on gender representation in the power sector, an issue we take very seriously. In fact, as I was getting ready for this session, I asked them in the office to give me a ratio of, because we can't be talking gender representation and not have gender balance in the organization. And for some reason, I was informed that 60% of the people in the organization are women. I'm not sure if that was by design or not. However, one thing I know for a fact is that if you want to get something done, give it to a woman. I also asked for the statistics on representation on the panel. You know, the panelists we've had in the 17 months or so we've been doing this, and it's right about 35% women. We haven't done as well, but by the time we finish this evening with the 4 panelists, that ratio will go up. And we keep pushing to get better gender representation. But it's for those reasons that we want to have this session. So permit me to introduce the moderator, and afterwards she will take it from there. Mrs. Awele Okibo is CEO of Credo Advisory. She spent the last 6 years providing strategic communications, leadership in strategic communications in the power sector. First to the Presidential Task Force on Power, to the APT in this current administration, and worked with NIAF for that duration, and continues to provide support to key agencies in the sector. Prior to this role, she was an executive at Cisco Systems in Lagos. She did strategic communications at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C., worked a little bit for Boston Mastella, a global PR firm, C-SPAN in Washington, D.C., and the International Herald Tribune in Paris. Without further ado, let me hand it over to Ms. Awele Okibo, who has the privilege of being my wife as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Okibo, for that wonderful introduction, especially the last commentary. Welcome, everyone. This is a particularly important session, and I'm really privileged to be the one moderating. It's a pleasure to be discussing female representation and participation in the power sector. As Patrick had mentioned, I've been in the sector for 6 years, and it has been a roller coaster, but on the most part it's an experience that has really made me grow and has challenged me. Before we begin, I'd like to just provide some context. Women in leadership it's a business issue. It's not really about gender, it's not an HR issue. It's really about performance with impact. And that performance has a bottom line impact. Survey and analytics has made a business case that the more women in leadership positions, the more return on investment, the higher the performance, and overall, the more effective the organization is. Now, this is fact. So quite fundamentally, the more women you have in roles across the globe, according to Ernst & Young report, the better an organization fares. But specifically, they did a report on the power utility companies globally, and they found this to be true as well. So in these times of disruptive change, as the power sector undergoes a fundamental reform, a diverse leadership team is really paramount, and it should be best practice. While diversity comes in different shapes and forms by age or ethnicity, I think gender diversity is particularly important, and it's a good starting point. That's why the three panelists that are going to be joining us, I think it's really important because they're an expression and proof of what I'm talking about. They're phenomenal in what they've been doing in their roles, in their individual roles, and it's a privilege for us to listen to what they'll have to share on their career, on their challenges, their triumphs, and their opinions on a few of the topics that we'll discuss. But before I introduce them, I'll give you just a few facts. Fact 1, studies have shown that the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are predominantly male-dominated. These have been historically known as male professions, with very low female participation. Fact 2, a well-documented body of evidence shows the link between the presence of women on boards and leadership positions to increase profitability and innovation. And then fact 3, according to the British Council Gender Report, women in governance and in decision-making levels are of tactical importance because of the impact they have. So in other words, the more women you have in these roles, the higher the performance and the better the impact. So let's bring it home to the Nigerian context. I think we'll all agree here that gender representation has a lot can be improved upon, primarily in the power sector. But there's good news, there's a good story here. The privatization of the power sector changed a lot. Before privatization, women were restricted to just the engineering roles, or maybe the administrative roles. But the power sector privatization basically created a diversification of skills. So you had women accountants, financial analysts, lawyers, project managers now taking an interest in the power sector and becoming active participants. That's good news. That's progress. So before I introduce them, you have the likes of Funke Oshukudu, who is CEO of Benin Disco, who is a banker by profession, but she is CEO of Benin Disco. So allow me to introduce our panelists. We need to meet these exceptional women who are doing their thing, who are really creating a lot of impact in a male-dominated environment. I will begin with Damilola Gumbi, who is the Managing Director of the Nigerian Rural Electrification Agency. She's responsible for implementing the Nigerian Off-Grid Electrification Plan and also the Energizing Education Program. Ms. Ogumbi is also the Power Sector Recovery Program Implementation Team Coordinator. She's joining us now. She just left a significant sector event, ministerial event. Dami, thank you for joining us. She worked previously as the Senior Special Advisor Assistant to the President on Power and Head of the Advisory Power Team in the Office of the Vice President. Mrs. Ogunbiyi was the first female to be appointed as the General Manager of the Lagos State Electricity Board. Under her leadership, 5 independent power projects were completed to deliver over 55 megawatts of power to Lagos State. Mrs. Ogunbiyi maintains, yes, absolutely exceptional in a short amount of time. And she's creating the same impact in a short amount of time at REA. Within a week of taking over the leadership, REA has been transformed. I can personally take account of that. Literally transformed in its governance structure, in its practices. Just even physically, when I went to visit REA, I couldn't even believe what, the amount of change and transformation has happened. And there's a renewed energy among the staff. And it's no easy feat taking a government agency and trying to really implement reform. To her right is Ime Okon. Ime is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Infrastructure. Sequel to that, she was recently appointed as a member of the Technical Committee of the National Council on Privatization. Congratulations. Previously, she worked for the USAID as project manager of the Power Africa Nigeria, where she conceptualized, designed, and implemented the USAID Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Project. Ime began her career at BPE, that's the Bureau of Public Enterprises, in 2002. Prior to working with USAID, she worked at the United Nations headquarters in New York. She holds a master's degree in science, Masters of Science in Energy Studies. Welcome, Ime. Thank you. To the right is Mrs. Agatha Nnaji. Mrs. Nnaji is the MD of Geometric Power, the pioneer private sector developer of power generation and distribution assets in Nigeria. As a pioneer member of Geometric with over 25 years of top management experience, she also serves as the Vice President of the Independent Power Producers Association of Nigeria. Ms. Nnaji has multiple awards and has been nominated for multiple awards in the power sector and beyond. She has mentored and encouraged several young female engineers as well as non-engineers to join the power sector in Nigeria. She is also an Ashoka Fellow with a master's degree in management from George Washington University. Welcome. So I'd like to begin, we'll have a Q&A, a question and answer session. We'll have a discussion, a conversation. We're all ears, and it's an opportunity for everyone to share their experiences. Mrs. Nnaji, if you wouldn't mind giving just a short discussion on your triumphs in your career, as well as your challenges as well. If you wouldn't mind going up to the podium. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mbene, for that introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I must say this is the second time I've attended this event. The first time was as a guest, listening to some very prominent Nigerian men make their positions clear on the power sector. Okay. The topic I was given is to demystify, right? To demystify the role of women in the power sector. If you had told me 15 years ago, or thereabouts, that I'll have anything whatsoever to do with the power sector, I'll tell you, you must be kidding. You've got to be dreaming, not me. And why do I say that? My background has always been in what is considered a social sector, the hospitality industry. I worked with an airline as a quality control officer, as an international relations manager, Then I worked with an international hospitality group, the Starwood Group, and you can imagine it takes a lot of different skills for you to succeed in that industry. So that was fun for me until I got married. And for some reason, my husband, being an entrepreneur who doesn't want to go for the easy challenges, pulled both of us back to Nigeria, and here I am in the power sector. Being the dutiful wife, I actually just got into the geometric power business because I wanted to support my husband and make sure that things worked. For me, it was a temporary position. But I found myself over the years gaining more knowledge from him and playing a more dependable role for him and for the nascent private sector developers in the power industry. So, in 2010, my boss was dragged, screaming and shouting, and with a lot of us in opposition, he was dragged into the public sector. We had a lot of very, very well experienced and exposed engineers working with us, technical people. Basically, people that you ordinarily expect to be in the power sector. However, when he was leaving, we had to make a decision on who would take over from him. We had about 3 choices. There was an expatriate working with us, very highly experienced, and there were some other experienced gentlemen working with us. So for me, I felt, oh yeah, this is an easy pick. One of the men will do it. Until like a thunderbolt, somebody would hit me with, "Madam, we think you should go and do this job." I'm like, huh? Me? Why? I can't do that. I'm not an engineer. Moreover, I'm his wife. So what would people say? That Oga has given his wife this position because he's going into government? No, I can't do it. But when the details came out, it turns out that what they were looking for as a leader for the company at that time was somebody that totally understood the vision of the founders of the company. Somebody that would be steadfast in handling the challenges of the Nigerian business environment. Remember, we were really the first to have a head-on collision with NEPA. And boy, was that a collision. So, when you are the one now piloting such a delicate boat in this environment, it puts a lot of stress on you. One of the things I had to deal with was self-doubt. Can I really do this? Am I going to let everybody down? What do I need to do to succeed? I know men think about these things, but for a woman, it's a lot more difficult because we are so detail-oriented, we really want to succeed, there's so many people we want to please. And here I am, there's no woman I can look up to and ask, how did you do it? So that was the beginning. I later on had to tap into my experience in order to gain the confidence that I needed. And what is that experience? I've led teams that have been successful. And what did it take? Getting to know your people, being part of the team, thinking and working with them in terms of deciding what the goal is and how to achieve those goals. So once you have the right resources, you should actually be able to do it if you're good at managing people. But as a woman, we enjoy multitasking and we enjoy challenges. So this is one additional challenge to my life as a mother, as a wife, as a team leader, and what have you. For today's topic, I would say to the women here, there's no big deal if you really want to do it. I believe you can. As Awele mentioned, the statistics in the power sector is a disaster. Post-privatization, how many GenCos, generating companies, have a woman as a CEO? The answer is no. We have one CEO in the distribution company, and like you rightly mentioned, she came from the banking industry. I am an MD. I'm from the hospitality industry. So you don't need to be a technical person in order to rise to the top. One thing that we must do to make the necessary change going forward is to ensure that women have a voice wherever decisions are being made that will impact our lives. We must. I listened to the news recently, and there was some talk about, in a particular career, that women would no longer be allowed to serve their nation. Why? If they choose to do so, why not? What is it that makes them improper to serve their nation? I think we need to be at the decision-making table, because I realized, thinking about it, that where that discussion took place, there was no woman. None. Zero. Maybe they were in Ciel's room. But bottom line is there was no woman. And the impact is that all the ladies that had signed up to do this job, all of a sudden have had their careers truncated. Is that right? Is that fair? We need some NGOs to talk about things like this and talk about it boldly. Not to abuse people, but we need to strategize on how to make sure that our voices are heard and that things are done to include women. I'm not sure how many minutes I have. 7 to 10. Thank you.
But if you can round it up, because
Oh, that's
maybe around.
I thought as much. Okay. Well, at Geometric Power, one thing we've done is to make sure that we include women. We give them an equal opportunity to be there when there are job opportunities. And I'm glad that we have a very good track record, actually, because when I look around the room, I see some of my 35%ers who are women who have held such positions as CEOs and have played major roles in different parts of the power sector as we speak. So I'm glad about that. But the way to do it, really, is to make sure that from the ground up, you give them that opportunity. During recruitment, during your performance appraisal, you must also have a zero tolerance for sexual harassment, and you have to have an ear to listen when the ladies around you want to talk to you about things that are personal to them. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll say others when given the opportunity. Thank you very much.
You can give us your just a short commentary.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this panel, but I think this is a bit too loud. Can you do that? Yes, thank you. I think I'll start by giving an overview of the statistics we're looking in terms of women participation in the sector and share my experience working in the sector. 2015, I and two of my former colleagues from Washington, we actually went out to about 3 distribution companies on this same issue. Because what we wanted to understand at that time was to understand how the utilities were engaging women in their processes and how they are functioning in the offices. So when we were through with the assessment, it was clear that some of the distribution companies have women in key management positions, but some sectors of the utilities did not have a fair representation of women working there. So, but the bottom line of the assessment that we did was that we wanted to see how we could use some of the information we gathered from the assessment to improve the labor opportunities for women in the energy sector and better understand how improved gender outcomes can contribute to better business practices and improve operations in utilities. And Awele has already shared some of those statistics with us, that if we have women in utilities, we see an efficient service delivery in such utilities. And then I'll lay down some of the facts also that we gathered from some of the assessment that we did of the 3 distribution companies, because we ended up working with Inco Disco and Ibadan Disco. So from the report, we saw that improving gender diversity in power sector utility showed that women employment within power distribution companies from a sample of 14 utilities in Eastern Europe, South Asia, Middle East, and Africa averages 13% of the workforce cutting across all management levels and in all categories. What we did not just restrict the assessment to Ibadan and Eko, we also covered some other countries in the European Union. And then Awele has also made mention to the Ernst & Young report, which also indicated that about 5% of executive board members at the top 200 power utilities companies are women. And in developed countries, the share of women employees in the energy industry is estimated at only 20%, most working in non-technical fields such as administration and public relations. Most likely to be smaller in developing countries, which we've seen in some of the assessment that we also carried out. But specifically in Nigerian power sector, we can also drill down to see that in generation, we have about 23 power sector stations. No female CEO in management or board, only 2 female CFOs and company secretaries. And then in distributions, 11 companies in total, only 1 female CEO, 3 female CFOs. And then in transmission, all the general managers are male, with only 1 female as company secretary. So the USA report also showed that although women work in all employment categories, women are not equally represented in all the departments, technical fields, high voltage line operations, field maintenance. And then when we also went out in the field, we also saw some of the ladies working in the control rooms, and some of the issues they shared with us at that point was that, look, most of these substations are in rural areas and they live far from town. Some of them are married, some of them are single, and then you come to work overnight in a male-dominated environment. You don't feel safe, you feel a bit threatened. So most times they all do not like to categorically just go to that particular field for employment. So they rather stay in customer service, call center, and revenue generation departments. So I'll also use this opportunity to share some of the experiences some of the challenges I also experienced trying to work on the Power Africa portfolio. Unfortunately, I cannot recall any significant challenge that I had to resolve issues working with colleagues that are older men who are more experienced and technically sound. Because as a project manager, I had to deal with white-skinned, older men, extremely intelligent. They knew their stuff and they look at me, oh, what do you know? All they see is just a pretty face, so what can you tell us that we don't know and all of that? So it took me a while, but I had the opportunity to be able to prove to them that, look, I understand what you're saying in the whole value chain. So by the time I built trust, it was very easy for me to be able to work with them, and they saw me beyond a fine face or a lady. So they saw that I had content and I could also engage them on ideas that were relevant to be able to, move some of the issues we have in the sector forward. And furthermore, I see my career has spanned through public service in Nigeria, international organization, and what I've seen is that for international organizations, there's a deliberate attempt to ensure that gender is mainstream into all the activities that they do. Like Mrs. Glady mentioned, for organizations like USAID, when there's an employment opportunity, there's a deliberate attempt to encourage the female folks to apply. and you see a lot of women responding to such advertisements. But in going further, you also see a situation where for every dollar that an international organization spends, they like to know, they want to see a disaggregation of how much of that dollar covers a woman or covers a man. So in that space, if you do that type of a disaggregation, then you are able to tell which gender is not properly represented in a particular sector. A program is designed to be able to attract or to be able to mitigate any issue that comes out in that kind of issue. So for me, working in the sector has been a roller coaster experience for me. But I would say for accomplishments, just working and being part of the process, that has delivered some of the reforms that we've seen in the sector is just enough for you to say, yes, you were part of that change. But profound of the things that I've done is the fact that I was one of the 7 men that was asked to operationalize the Nigerian Nextier Regulatory Commission. This was in 2005. So for me to see how the NEC is working right now, as at when we started in 2005, I think that is a profound achievement in that space. So see, I know a lot of us have a lot of issues on NEC being an effective regulation, but I believe that with appropriate kind of support, we would see an effective NEC, because they're taking baby steps, but they get to the point where they have to now start, working like they've come of age. So I'm very excited about that. But another acknowledgement I also like to share, with the permission of Roseanne, because I recall when you're working in this space also, you also have to have a lot of perseverance. You also have to be very determined, because it's a male-dominated sector. I recall in 2010 when I was invited to start the Pan-Africa portfolio, and Prof was part of my story. When I was asked to start the Pan-Africa portfolio, I had $1 million to start. I was like, wow, 1 million, what am I going to do with $1 million? So, but luckily, I was able to, design projects that leverage on a lot of other activities in the sector. And I can boldly say now, after 6, 7, 8 years down the line, that same portfolio has now released a solicitation of over $100 million for projects. So I think if we're very persistent and very passionate about what we do, I think we can, as women, show what we're made of, and we're able to compete in the space that we're currently working in. Thank you.
If you can just share, in the interest of time, you can just take 5 minutes just to share some of your own experiences, and then we can have a discussion on other things. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm not as organized with stats and information as the other 2 speakers. I just wanted to share my story. And I really don't think I'll be here if I wasn't female. So I think I'm looking at it on the other way. I think it's a very positive thing to be female. I think there's a lot of offices I can go into because I'm female. I think the way I speak and the way my mannerism, because I'm female, gets me into these places. There are a lot of challenges as well, but we also have to think of the positives of being female where we are in this position. In sharing my story, I came back to Nigeria because my husband said we're moving back. It was really that simple. I'd been in England in boarding school since age 9, so unlike other people who have lots of experience in Nigeria, I had nothing. And I was really lucky. I was on a DFID NIAF program. I was earning a substantial amount of money every day, and I was very, very excited. And I was helping Lagos State in some way. But I was going there and I felt I was making a difference. Until I got to meet the governor. The governor said, I want you to be my senior special assistant. And it's the minister at the time. And he said, your salary is going to be 80,000 naira a month, but it's for your country. And I remember going, okay, that's like a 400% pay cut. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, I have some port buildings in Lagos Island, I want you to power it. And I was like, okay, fine. So I came with my colleague, his name is Deji, and we walked around Lagos Island for about 6 hours to try and find the land. Because this is Lagos Island. And then we did our modeling and said, we can't really justify building a power plant for court buildings. And we started identifying on foot all the different general hospitals in Lagos Island, the State House and all this, and we developed a model and we said, okay, we just put one big diesel engine and it will power everything. And he said, well, you can't do anything before you become my senior special assistant. So I think for the first time I went to my husband and I was like, okay, my allowances and everything needs to change now because I've never asked you to do anything for me of this substantial nature, but now I'm going to be earning something that definitely can't sustain me and can't sustain anything that I feel in my needs, and I need this sacrifice. And I believe that's something people miss. There's always that one point in your life that you have to make a sacrifice. And it's not about female or male, it's about what you want to become. And I did that. And we powered the hospitals, and more importantly, we powered the baby hospitals. And by the time we had gotten literally into implementation, we realized we could go on compressed natural gas. So we changed the modeling again. We don't have to use diesel, we have to use compressed natural gas. This was all in a team of 4 people. It wasn't a big team. We didn't have nice financial advisors I have now, and quality control and everything I had to deal with. And we did that, and we commissioned it, and Nextier has even gone to visit the plant. So we started with 7 buildings, and today there are 49 buildings attached to that power plant. More important, which is the best thing about my job, is that we reduced infant mortality rate, which is saving babies by 40%. There's nothing you can pay me. If I had stayed with my cushy job and I was a consultant and going up and down, I wouldn't get to do that. After that, the governor at the time had 109 senior special assistants. He retained 4 people, and I was one of them. And he made us head of agencies. Again, you need to sacrifice. And when I got into Lagos State Electricity Board, as you know it now, the budget was 15 million naira. I'm saying it's true, 15 million naira. For capex and overhead in that was 10 million. So you had 5 million. So they had no faith in this agency. What you want to do, I said, we have to be in charge of public lighting because illumination is also key. There's no better way of securing a city without street lighting. And we're also going to start different power plants around the state. Everyone thought I was mad. What does this girl know? Now, I even looked younger then. What does this girl know? She can't do it. Is she part of NSC? She's not part of NSC. They said I had to join NSC. I said, I'm not joining NSC because I don't, even if I did an engineering degree, I don't think of myself as an engineer. I think of myself as a project manager. And I believe as a project manager, it doesn't matter what discipline you are, you will learn. So after that, 5 IPPs later, I met the vice president on a whim. They said, go and present what we're doing in Lagos. He was not the vice president at the time. He said, not only do I want to know what is happening in power, I also want you to help me on my campaign. So I will tell you a true story. I've been in Yanobada market with braids packed up to this, giving brooms out. Because that is what will get the person I believe in elected. So sometimes you need to sober up and say, you're not a general manager, you don't hurt something, you have to do the job that suits what you have to do. And, you know, the term ended, I said I was going to leave Lagos State, and Vice President just called me and said, come to Abuja. It was me and someone called Dr. Madla, who headed LASMA. And we came to Abuja, we were sitting down doing the planning and everything, and because I really need you guys to work with me. Again, these things happen because they see your hard work, they see your commitment. I am obsessed with young people. I am obsessed with youth training. The Energy Academy in Lagos was literally one of the most important things I ever did. It showed how much talent we had in this country, and it showed people can work properly. And that is what I try and bring into the Rural Electrification Agency. When you come in, there are quite a lot of young people, but it doesn't matter if you're female, if you're not female, you just have to be able to work hard. And that is missing. I don't care what forum we're in. People don't understand sacrifice and really working hard. I have a job with the Vice President, I have a job with the Minister, and I have the job at the REA MD right now as we speak. And I can't decide which one I want to do. I have to do it because whatever I'm doing, they're working 100 times more than me. So I guess my message to everybody, especially young females, is leave all of that. Maybe you don't go to that party on the weekend, maybe you don't do all these things. The most important thing is your work ethic, how far beyond you're able to go, and your family life, because it's a sacrifice. I have a baby, and I know when I'm in my degree looking at pictures, I'm like, I'm in my room, my baby's here. But it's the position I decided to put myself in. I made that choice. And to serve my country, for me, I see it as a privilege. It's very challenging, but again, it's a privilege. A lot of people will want to do what any of us are doing, and we have to be cognizant of it, and we have to do it to the best of our capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. I'll ask the panelists a few questions and then we'll open up to audience participation. I'd like to start with you, Mrs. Inaji. A lot of times, being a minority in the power sector, in our industry, we come into meetings and we're oftentimes the only woman. There's some gender-related roadblocks that we encounter. And Mrs. Owumbi already mentioned that a lot of times if you prove yourself, if you're confident and you just focus on your objective, a lot of those, it's actually an asset being a woman. So can you share with us, the instance where you found yourself in a situation where your gender became an issue, and how did you overcome it? There are a lot of women here who, we are women, and it is a strength, as Ms. Owumbi reminded us, but there are also times when we do come across challenges, and it's good to be able to know how to react, and how to overcome, and how to make the focus more about your work and about your performance. Would you mind sharing? And it'd also be good to hear from the other panelists.
Okay. A number of experiences that kind of clash, but I'll give you one. When my husband joined the public service, he left a big vacuum. Internally in the office, I had to work with men who knew what to do in the industry. And some of them, especially the older ones, didn't quite accept the role of a woman as the MD. That was the smallest of the challenges, because when he now went into the power sector, privatization started. What that meant was that we had to, as a company, first fight the battle of the lease agreement we had with the federal government and try to maneuver to make sure that nobody jeopardized that, because if it happened, that meant all the investment, all the commitments we had made would go down the drain. And unfortunately, because of his position, I couldn't go to the minister as I normally would have done to talk about it. What the heck is going on here? Federal government, we have an agreement with you. This is what you're doing wrong, and I think you need to treat us right. But that conflict was something that really, really pains me till tomorrow, because if he wasn't there, we wouldn't be in the jeopardized situation we are today. Now, second thing, we had to now talk to potential investors, a lot of them foreigners. So you're sitting across the table, you're a woman, you're not a technical person, your husband is in public service, in a significant position, and you're trying to convince them that Nigeria is serious about moving the sector forward, right? So I had to make sure that I got the team to fully support me when it came to the technical things that I couldn't directly answer. Now, these are the men that were thinking, yeah, what does she know? The good thing is that as a woman, we learn on the job very easily. So all those 10, 12 years I have been understudying my boss, I picked up quite a few things. At least I know what megawatt means, and I can say it confidently. And all that helped. So for me, one of the good things about being a woman is that once you know what you're talking about, and you come into a situation where there are problems, it is easier for us women to kind of maneuver and find the solution more than it is for men. We don't have the ego that a lot of men do. We don't have to feel bad when we're begging for something. So yes, I totally appreciate what Damilola was saying about being able to confidently walk through a door and get what you need if you know what you're talking about. But first, you must know what you're talking about. Bullshit doesn't work, excuse my friends, in business.
Dami, I'd actually like to ask you the next question. So after many years in the private sector, you find yourself in Lagos State, you face and slay so many dragons at the state level. You're now in federal. Can you share with us what the challenges are now like? How different are they? Are they similar?
The federal is a whole other beast. Like nothing to prepare. There's not amount of prayer that can prepare you for the federal government. In federal government, there's challenges everywhere. Internally, within your office, externally, everywhere. But I think in terms of what we're talking about, female, what really hit me was the way people approach females north of Abuja to Lagos. So you would be going somewhere, it's a perfect example, we're Bono and we're going to see some of the royal families, and they will literally do this. The minister of the place do this and they sit on the floor. The first time it happened, then maybe they made a mistake. They don't know me, you know. They don't. But the next time you're just like, it's actually a cultural thing. So it's a fine line to not be offended. You know what I mean? Or to understand it. So now I just stand. You know what I mean? Know where I stand for until they now call you there. There are just some certain things that are just peculiar to northern Nigeria that you just don't find in Lagos. There's also some good things. Like I feel women to women interaction since I've been in the federal government has been a lot warmer. In Lagos, women that are in principal positions higher than you will make you kneel down for them in a meeting with all investors. They will make sure say you haven't knelt down. So there's this whole thing that women have to work on their relationships as well, not to belittle women coming out.
Thank you, Dami, for that. That actually segues perfectly, and Ime, if you can answer this question. Madeleine Albright, who is the former Secretary of State, has famously said that there should be a special place in hell for women that do not help other women. So, Dami, to your point, Ime, can you share with us how can women support and motivate each other? You're now at the presidency level, and what are some of the things you think that women should be doing for each other so we can encourage and build ourselves up?
I think Dami has mentioned in some of the statements that she has made, but for me, I have been pleasantly or disappointingly surprised. When I got my appointment, I thought I'd have a lot of my friends rally around me. It was not the case. I was shocked. I'm like, and then I woke up one day, I'm like, I've not spoken to my friend for like 5 weeks. What happened? And then somebody sent me a text, it's lonely up there. I'm like, oh, lonely up there. You're supposed to have your friends rally around you. So we have these issues of jealousy, we have these issues of friends not supporting you, and then you have this issue of somebody trying to literally drag you down. Because someone is wondering, how did you get the job? The next thing, nobody is going to think about your competence. They're going to say, oh, it's because of your face. I'm sure you went around, networking and trying to sleep around to get the job. But it's so pathetic to see that sometimes you have to literally find friends that you can drag with you to stay with you through the process. But in natural fact, women, we do not care for one another. We don't care for one another. And it's something very disappointing because we should be there supporting one another, we should be there, literally sharing experiences. But luckily for me, from my USAID experience, I have fantastic female bosses that I can still reach back to and look, I have this problem, I don't know how to deal with it, and then I have enough kind of mentorship and support to be able to go through that to go through that space. But going forward, I think we need to help ourselves. We need to be, we need to mentor ourselves. We need to help ourselves. Because if Damilola is doing very well in that space, you should be able to identify someone and say, okay, I see some of the streak I see in me at your age, and be able to say, okay, if you do this and this, I'll take you to where I go to. You know what I know, and then by the time you get to her age, you're already, achieving the kind of things that she's already achieved. But from what I see in our sector and in this space in Nigeria, seriously, we've not been the best of friends for one another.
It's just very interesting. Mrs. Naji, would you like to make a comment on that? You may have a different experience.
About what you said is true. However, there's another way of looking at it, and that is the fact that when you're up there, a lot of women tend to feel that you don't need them. So they step back until you actually ask them to come and pull them. So, we now need to make a conscious effort to first find the people we are going to mentor and make sure that we actually spend time doing that, and then look for others that would support us either at the family level or the workplace or, socially. Yeah.
And
I totally agree with Mrs. Nanaji. What also helps is that people just don't want to bother you. They now know your workload, and this is why so they text you like once or twice, but if you don't respond, that's it. But that doesn't mean that they have forgotten or abandoned you, because I'm at risk of not communicating enough to everybody since I've been in this position. So there's also that backtracking. You have to look at yourself that these are the people that were your friends, these are people your support system. You just can't say, because I'm now in Abuja, I don't care about them, but they're meant to give all the love and support to you. And I think that's what Nanaji is saying. It goes big. There are always going to be women that are jealous. There are going to be even more men that are more jealous of what you are doing. But you also have to look at yourself and say, have I changed since I was doing this? And the truth is, most of the time you have, just because you don't have enough time. Yeah.
I'd like us to talk about our younger selves, and I'll start with Mrs. Enaji. What would you tell your younger self? You've had many years of experience, and you're now senior manager. You've now attained all these accolades. What do you know now that you wish you knew back then? What would you tell yourself?
You just reminded me about that famous music, Tina Turner, Think Back. So, I've got some gray hair, so I'm going to have a long... Just kidding. Okay, as a young girl,
this is actually advice to the young women.
think about what will make you happy. Think about what natural talents you have. And see if you can combine your natural gifts with what can make you happy, and look for that sweet spot where you can best apply yourself. A lot of English. But for me, I'm the first of 6 children, and my 5 siblings are boys. So growing up, I was a major tomboy. And my plan really was to be a good girl, go and study law, come out and be a good wife and mother and all the normal things. But somehow, nature, the Almighty, kept throwing things in my way that misdirected me or directed me to where I am today. And I have no regrets. So as a young person, I would say, when one door closes, another opens. Always look out for that opportunity that can be the turning point in your life and will make your life better. You can do it so long as you prepare for it.
I could have been more deliberate in my choices. Yes, because I see the way I've progressed in my career, I wouldn't say I was strategic in the choices I make. I'm just coasted along, yes, diligence, hard work followed me through. Because if I'm sure a few of you have seen the speech of the Vice President that is making wave now on social media, he was very critical. It was key in saying that, look, if you're diligent, no matter how lowly you are, that diligence will take you somewhere. And I recall my first job. I was pretty young then, and I had a job to do. I had senior officers that could have done that job effectively and leave, but no, they abandoned the job for me, and we had a deadline. So, but at that point, I understood what it meant to be diligent. I understood what it meant to be very hardworking. And for me, in my makeup, if I have work to do, I would sleep if I don't finish that work. So that's how I'm made up. So I had to stay in the office that day, finished up all I had to do. And at that point, I did not realize I did not have a car. And when I was done, it was about almost 2 a.m., almost like what the Vice President said in his speech, almost 2 a.m. And I came out of the office, I had to stand on the road to get a taxi. I didn't have a car. And I entered the taxi, I left. I went back home, I slept. I came back to work the next day. My boss was shocked that the job was done. Because she was like, she didn't know we were going to meet the deadline, but we met the deadline. And I did it on behalf of the team. So when the team came back, we all took the glory for it. But so the point I'm trying to make is that diligence is very key as a young person. Even if most times we are not placed in situations where we can take decisions that would help us in life. Because several times too, I know as I was growing up, I tried first to be a doctor, it didn't work out. I tried again to be a pharmacist, it didn't work out. I also tried to be a geologist, it didn't work out, and then I ended up in the energy sector. And I think what I've done so far has been able to catapult me with a lot of, support from key mentors to where I am today. So bottom line, diligence, hard work, and deliberate choices that you make would help you not to, lose time in trying to get to the particular cause that you're supposed to be at the end of the day.
I would like to throw it back to my mother, actually, who was probably the single most important person in my life. She used to say two things. She used to say mediocrity is not acceptable, and she said failure is not an option. And I think that's just how I've always led my life, and hopefully anybody who's working with me will learn from that. I'm glad I don't know everything I know now, because I'm not sure if I would be here. So to say what would I do differently, I'm not sure, because it's exciting when you don't know what will happen, or you don't know the stage in your life, but you're just striving with the goals that you have. So I guess for me, it's the goals is that hard work is rewarding. It does pay, and you have no idea what is waiting for you until you do something.
Okay, I'll just have one final question before we start with the audience participation. And we talked about, obviously the attributes of hard work, commitment, talked about self-doubt as a barrier, an obstacle. Can we talk about, or just share from your experience, what do you think the younger generation of women behind us, what do you think the most significant barrier will be for them? Given our experiences, your experiences in the private sector, at the state level, with donor agencies, you mentioned not being focused. What do you think their most significant barrier will be? The sector is open. They can come in as accountants, as lawyers. What are some of those barriers? What are some other barriers do you think they can face, and how do you think they can overcome that? We've talked a little bit about things we should be doing, but I'd like to delve deeper.
That would be again. Well, the first is fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of a new environment, a place that hasn't been that well tested by other women. So, if you go into catering as a woman, your chances of succeeding without a lot of self-doubt and what have you is much higher than when you go into a male-dominated environment like the power sector. So the way forward would be to find a way to give the younger women, the ladies, the opportunity to get to know about the sector a little more. So when they're making a decision about their career, they will know that this is an option, and an option where they can excel.
I think if we are not very conscious of the fact that we're women, we can, you can triumph with whatever situation you find yourself. Because for me, I don't see myself as a woman. I tell my friends sometimes I'm working, I don't remember I have a daughter. Like, whoa, it's bad, but that kind of consciousness that you're passionate about what you're doing, you're focused on what you're doing, and then, like Damilola said, failure is not an option for you. You just have to deliver, you just have to succeed. So whatever it takes for you to succeed, you give it your all. And if you think you see yourself as a woman, you enter into a room and you see all men, and you doubt your ability to be able to engage the men, then that's a step for you to fall. And interestingly for me, I've not had those issues. If I enter a room, too bad for you if you underestimate me than a woman. Then I start talking, and then you're off your balance, because you're like, I'm not expecting that kind of thought to come out of your mouth, because you just see me as a woman. So too bad, but the young ladies should take advantage of that and be able to believe in their ability to engage. And your ability to engage also, revolves around your knowledge base. You need to read, you need to go beyond your sector. You need to, it's not enough that you're a power sector person. You should know what is happening in politics. You should know what is happening in another sector, so that you can be an all-rounder. So anywhere they engage you in any sector, you can talk. So you told me, oh, because she's been working in the sector, she has experience, that's why she can talk. But you know your depth, and then you're able to build your knowledge base and be able to engage that way. You can't have any self-doubt. Because I recall one time we had a very important visitor coming from India and all of that. And I just had to, I don't know what I did, but bottom line, exactly, I had to deliver. There was no way, I can't feel my box. So I had to deliver. So sometimes when you're put in that position where failure is not an option, then you ginger yourself. But you can only ginger yourself when you know you have a knowledge base, a wealth of where you can draw from, of things you know beyond your sector. So bottom line, read beyond your sector, know your stuff, and be able to stand tall and talk to anyone. So anybody that underestimates you because you're a fine girl, that's their business. So bottom line, just know your stuff and be able to engage.
I completely agree with the other 2 points. I'm going to twist it up a bit. Marry well. The support of your family is so key when you're doing this stuff. And then having a man who understands why you are not at home, why you have a baby, why you have to plan having your baby to do with your work schedule is not an easy task on anybody, especially men. I'm married to an Ogun State man. They are very proud of how they want their wives to be. So you need to think about that when you go into this sector. You need to think, because if your home life is okay, it will make you perform well. But if your home life is not okay, it doesn't. And men are very surprising creatures. They complain. But when you achieve, they're the first ones to tell everybody what you have done. And then they become proud of you, and they read your reports, and they check up on you, and they do so. So that is my own advice to very young women. Please think of who you're marrying and make sure that person supports your marriage.
I have one other question. And as women, I mean, that was a phenomenal response to that. It's very key, very key. As women, we tend to be very self-deprecating. We don't like to celebrate our achievements. We don't like to talk about what we've achieved. Let us celebrate ourselves. What are you proud of the most? What is it? Toot your own horn right now, because you are phenomenal. You are exceptional in what you're doing, and you deserve where you are at this point. What are you most proud of?
I need a Nextier.
Okay.
Wow. Seriously? I need an expert. What have I done well? Oh, thank you. I married well. Seriously, I have a fantastic husband that has supported me, encouraged me to be the best I can be. And he's given me a real opportunity to make a difference in the power sector, in the community. I found out in marrying him that I ended up having a platter of gold, and I needed that to be able to excel. So I think that's the best thing I've done. Marrying well. Thank you.
I'm still trying to figure out.
I read your profile.
Okay. I think my greatest achievement is powering. Bade, you would know because you worked with me. 172 schools in rural Lagos and 13 clinics in 6 months on solar. We had a 6-month implementation timetable. And people think places in Lagos are not rural. They are rural places, and we had to deliver all those projects and get them online before our election. So I think that's probably my greatest achievement, because there's nothing better in seeing young people and doing something that allows young people to learn.
I think for me also, the family front is very important, and in the midst of all what I've done or what I've achieved, raising a daughter that is a golfer is a big achievement for me. So at any point I'd like to brag about her, because she's represented Nigeria in several international if I fail at any other thing, but raising up a child alongside being a career woman, I think I've done well for myself. So, but bottom line, still, just deliberately focusing on work and not letting any other thing to distract me, to the point where I've gotten recognition to be appointed to be the senior special assistant on infrastructure. So I just think family life is good, and so far, because of that balance, I've been able to get to where I am today.
Thank you. So we'll now like to open up for audience participation.
Coincidentally, I read an article this morning from Melinda Gates, where she said that she was very lucky to have a maths teacher in all-girls secondary school that was very passionate about teaching girls how to code. That was just coincidence. There was no plan. Women have a lot of challenges, especially when it's in the technical sector. So my question really is there anything any of the panelists are doing or plan to do in the future that sometime 20, 30 years down the line, some women that is a girl now will look back and say, I'm happy, I'm lucky that any of you did this long time ago for me. Thank you.
My name is Emmanuel Chukwu. I'm happy about what is happening here, and I can attest to that of Mrs. Naji. I am with the Ministry of Power, and I could recall when she and her husband come for meetings as regard IPP, and she was always on the forefront fighting to make sure geometrics get what they need. Well, on the issue of women, I just want to advise that you people work more to ensure that when it comes to admission in schools, women should be given a particular percentage. It starts from there, because you need them to move in. If they don't come in from beginning, you can't get them at the top. So I think that should follow. Thank you.
And you have to deal with, and how do you actually handle sexual harassment in the workplace?
Wow. My name is Regina Amadi Njoko. I'd like to ask 2 questions for them. First, you guys have given us such a rich rendition of your lives professionally. Where do you think you got this from? Your leadership skills, your management skills. Where really did it start from? If you can share with us. Second one is, the top is lonely. We call it stiletto management. You're on top, you're shaking. You look down, there's nothing. Will you people consider, especially in the power sector, where they really don't have women, start forming a critical mass of sisters to start to then look back and put others? We have 3 of you here today, or 4. That's the beginning. Thank you.
My name is Idowu Evanjo. I'm an engineer from the UK. I'm involved in STEM activities for female students in the United Kingdom. So my question really is more of how we can empower the ladies from secondary school. That's what we do over there. In the career, the STEM subjects. So we give them sponsorship. Can we give them scholarships? So currently now in Nigeria, I'm the president of the alumni in secondary school. So I'm giving scholarship to girls who are indigent on physics, chemistry, and biology, and maths. And then if they do well, pass their exams at one sitting and jam, WAEC and jam, they will then go on scholarship to the university on STEM subjects. The power sector, which is my specialty. So I'm encouraging them with their strong bias in maths and physics. Naturally, they want to go into engineering. And so I have quite a lot of Nigerians now into the power sector, and they are really working, and they are females. So this is an example of something to be encouraged. And when we do that all across the world, nationwide, we're going to get a massive support of women in the power sector.
Thank you. In 20 years, what do you think you're doing now that will really impact them if they can look back and thank you for what you did? I mean, I know, I'll let you answer that first.
Okay, thank you. I have some amazing young women who work with me. They drive me mad sometimes, but they're amazing young women. I don't think it's 20 years. I think they can be where I am in the next 3-4 years if they apply themselves. I think they're exceptional what they do. I think applied they would be better than me. I think they just need the experience, the drive, and you need a little bit of luck as well. You can't lie. You need that person to notice you and to notice your capability and give you a stance. So a lot of people always want to see the MD, but no, let the next person in line go for that meeting. Give them the opportunity to shine as well. You're already the MD, so what are you trying to prove to anybody? I think that's my key thing. I think I already have a future that I'm going to be the next
So for me, I think basically it's exactly what Daniel said. You give others the opportunity to be able to talk when the opportunity arises. You've made your point, you've made your mark. You're already there, you don't need to, you're not struggling with anybody anymore. So if you have young people that look up to me, sometimes I sit down and I wonder, I know I didn't have too many mentors growing up, but how did I get to where I got to? Perseverance. You sit and be able to visualize where you want to be in a few years, and then you're able to set goals for yourself, and every year you review what goals, if you've achieved your goals, and then be able to say, okay, I'm not, then I can go this way. Some people may be watching you. Some people may be watching, you may not have that followership that's a physical that you're aware of, but some people may just be watching and say, oh, I'd like to be like that auntie when I grow up. So whatever you're doing, you have to be deliberate in what you're doing to know that you are someone's hero, you're someone's mentor, even if they don't come to you personally to tell you that. So you're very careful that you're not passing the wrong message to those that are following your every progression in life.
Thank you.
Geometric power is actually the vehicle I would use to do something that should help the future generation or the young ladies that want to work in the sector. And that's because what we do really is to develop projects in the power sector. So we develop generation projects, we're working on a distribution network. For each one of them, we create an SPV. For me, the strategy is get as many qualified, smart, young ladies into the company and into those projects so that they learn. They get to know about project development. They get to work with the lawyers. They get involved in every aspect of developing the power sector. That way, as they grow, they become more confident. And even if they leave the company, they can grow into higher positions elsewhere. We pride ourselves at geometric power because in the power sector today, we have ambassadors of GP virtually everywhere. And it's because we selected or we came across very smart people, and at each point in time when that happens, we tried to bring them on board, especially those that are in the diaspora, who are a bit skeptical about coming back home. It does two things. It brings them home, and they share their knowledge with our brothers and sisters in Nigeria who are also capable but may not have had the same kind of opportunity of learning and working abroad. So for me, I would say anyone that can, when you find yourself in a position of decision making, target the women. They are loyal, they are hardworking, they deliver. Okay? So let's use that and negotiate from 35% to 50% of the workforce in any organization.
The next question was from Mercedes, and she asked how often did you have to deal with sexual harassment? How did you deal with it? But before you answer, I have to answer as well. And this is not anything particular to Nigeria. As we all know, this is a global issue. In working in the power sector, I have encountered sexual harassment too many times. I dread going to the National Assembly. I don't go to the National Assembly unless I'm wearing a power suit, trousers, laptop. I look like a geek. And it's something that I know a lot of women encounter, and you have to deal with. So I'll let you guys respond.
I think the problem is that you now have to say, is this sexual harassment or is it Nigerian sexual harassment? Because there's so much inappropriateness on a day-to-day basis in your life, from someone touching you to someone saying really inappropriate things that you have to try and blank it out. But there are times where you have to step up and say, no, do not do this, especially for other people that. Because you are in a certain position that can do it. Could I do it in Lagos State when I first started? No. I didn't have the courage to do it. But now I can. And if I see it at any point in my organization and it's said to me, I will make sure someone puts a stop to it as well. And I think we really have to take that stance. Because you're saying power suit, full hijab, covering your head, National Assembly, there's nothing you can do without someone being inappropriate, to you. I mean, someone asked me out for dinner the other day, and I said I was married, and he said, did I ask you that? And I lost it with him. I said, okay, this is now the stance. And I think at this level, we have to be able to speak up for all the younger people, which is happening. I can't imagine how much is happening to them, because you forget sometimes that even sexual harassment, because it happens so often, and that in itself is wrong.
I've had several experiences, but I would say I've been very fortunate again in the places I've worked, because we have very strict rules against sexual harassment. And if you're able to speak up, bottom line is for young ladies that, like Daddy said, you don't have to be beautiful. If a man sees you, thinks it's his right to talk to you inappropriately. But you have to be able to stand your ground and know the rules of the organization to be able to engage that person on an inappropriate action. But for me, at BPE, I worked with a lot of National Assembly people. I think the word you used was very appropriate. But unfortunately, you also have to be very firm. Like, look, you're going too far. I think you need to stop. And there's a way, as a woman also, sometimes they tell us you shouldn't laugh too much. What is too much, really? What is too much? Well, that's how we attract people. You just have to smile to look cute. Because sometimes your smile gets you what you want, but then you have to now know at what point to be able to stop and say, no, you can't cross this boundary. Because we have to sometimes, okay, maybe I shouldn't use this word, but in a male-dominated sector, you use what you have to get what you want, but not going too far, literally with what I just said. So if you know you've been having a very difficult person and you need to get something from that person, just smile. But the smile sometimes that means, oh, I'm gay. But you should be able to stamp your foot down and say, no, this is enough and this is what I want to have from you and all of that. Those issues will be there, whether you're beautiful, whether you're not. And I can also share another experience. When I was leaving USAID, my colleague actually told me, you need to change your wardrobe. I'm like, excuse me, change my wardrobe? What is wrong with my wardrobe? You shouldn't dress like this. You should wear, cover yourself up properly. I'm like, even if you're covered, a man will say ask you out, if they want to ask you out and all of that. So in the working environment, it's very prevalent, and knowing the rules helps, and then being able to stand your ground. Because most of the people that I've worked with know that I smile a lot, but when I need to be firm, I need to be firm. I'm firm. There's no way about it, no matter how close I am to you. If I need to be firm, I need to be firm. And so when people know you as that, then there's always a line to be drawn when they are overstepping your boundaries.
This is energy.
Where do I start? Okay. Sexual harassment starts from, when you're little. Okay? So long as you're a girl, you can hear stories that are horrifying, and you say, thanks to the Almighty, that wasn't me. For us as mothers, please be careful of the drivers that take your daughters to school. It starts there. Or the person that cooks in the house. Or you think it and you say to yourself, it can't be true, but I have heard, I have seen, and I can tell you it's not something that anybody would want to happen to somebody you love. I worked in the hotel industry. I was in charge of marketing. I was the director of sales and marketing in a top hotel. Single. I had to smile. You can imagine what that did to the men. As far as they were concerned, you asked for it. So you have to have lunch. Yes, I can have lunch with you. Okay, let me tell the people in the restaurant to book a table. But half of the time, I'm busy with other people. I knew that's not what they wanted, but it's lunch you wanted. We're having lunch. Dinner, sorry, I can't make dinner. You learn to be diplomatic. You learn how to treat a man like he's important, but draw the line. You learn how to make friends with their wives and hope that that will save you, right? You learn how to underdress. I remember a negotiation we had to go at one time with, well, interestingly, that was another woman, but we learned to dress down so as not to attract the wrong attention. And once you're doing all this, you're asking God, why me? But there's really no answer. So if you're in a situation where you are sexually harassed and you realize what's going on, try and see if there's somebody that you can turn to for protection. If you have a good boss, that's usually the person to turn to. I was lucky while I was working at a hotel, I had a very, very strong-minded expatriate boss. And for some reason he appreciated the job that I was doing. It was tough, but I got results. So when he had to challenge the chairman of the company on my behalf, I doffed my hat to him. That's the sort of person we need as our champion. You can also look for other women who have had the same experience and are old enough to be outspoken and bold about it. So I would suggest to the ladies that are having this sort of problem, talk to someone. I'm open, I'm available. Thank you.
The next question was from Mrs. Amadi Njoku. She wanted to know where you got your skills, your leadership skills, your managerial skills. How did you acquire these attributes?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, she said her mother.
My mother, yes.
Definitely my mother as well. My mom became a single mother when my parents separated at 5, but she still insisted I did the best and went to the best school. So I just never feel like I can let her down if she's giving me that love.
I think my mother as well, because mothers are very, very strong. They're a killer. I definitely, it's my mother, because I see when we were growing up, she was everything, literally everything. You can never see my mother break down. You can never see her cry. She was always strong for everyone. Even when she's sick, she's out there, looking out for the other person. I definitely agree that my mother was my
Our next question was getting that critical mass. How do we in the power sector get more women, get more support and more mentoring in our field, or even externally? Any suggestions?
I don't know. I think mentorship is very important, but I don't know if mentorship is enough. Because I know from statistics it shows that women are more mentored than men, yet the men get a lot of strategic positions. So for me, I would think we should have sponsors, more like sponsors, people that would identify you and look at you and see that skill and say, because I once had a boss like Amy, I see myself in you 30 years ago. So anything I did was perfect with her. And wherever I went wrong, she always, put me in the right and all of that. So having a sponsor is very critical. And I think Daniela and I benefited from what's that NLIT we did?
Oh,
yes, so Daniela and I benefited from it, where some of our mentors nominated us for a program in 2009 when they saw inherent leadership skills in us and sent us to that program. And since 2009, I think we've turned out very well. So having a sponsor is very, very key, that any woman that sees a young girl and sees themselves in that young girl should be able to, help that young girl to bring out the best in her and take her to strategic places. Because right now we don't have enough women in strategic positions. So with key sponsors, you are able to, be elevated in strategic positions, and then you do the same for younger girls after you. Yeah.
And the last question was from Ido. He asked about how do we empower girls and increase their participation in the STEM fields and getting STEM sponsorships, scholarships, etc.
I think you have to start from GSS, sorry, I was going to say GCS, GSS. From 2 is or GSS 7 or 2 is a very critical stage. We ran something called the Power Kit, and it's important to make these subjects fun, because current curriculums are not fun. They are not engaging, and to actually give them extra curricular activities in this field that they want to go into. So the end of year task was someone needed to build or you needed to invent something. So you have some kids doing microwaves, you have some kids building a solar system from their class. That is what kids at that age were doing when we gave them tools. I think we gave them 15,000 naira or something each or something. But it made it so fun that we saw it, and we did it for 100 schools across Lagos. We saw a jump in the amount of girls from the GSS who wanted to now do it in SSS. Because if you catch them in SSS, they've already decided what path they want to do. You have to make the sciences fun and engaging, and you would be surprised how many kids, and then the kids that weren't on the program wanted to be on the program, so they started writing to us, and so we did essays and competitions, and it was just a really, really fun, rewarding thing. So if you want to engage young people, you need to make it fun, you need to take it out of the classroom. You needed to dedicate your time and attention on the group of young people you want to work on, and just leave it to them. They would excel by themselves.
Thank you. I think we'll take another round of questions.
I started with a disclaimer that in our firm, we're about 60% female, right? So that's a disclaimer to then go to what I want to say. But I think it was Ime in her presentation talked about ladies who were in a power company, but they didn't want to do the shifts because it's not safe for them, or something. So they end up in customer service roles, etc. I think that in having gender representation, we need to deal with, are there jobs that women are cut out for? And if there are no jobs that women are cut out for, then we can't, the situation Ime talked about becomes a bit of a challenge. Because if you're running a firm and you have to consider, oh, we're going to work late tonight, but she's a lady, she has to go home, so she has to leave by 7, but the men will stay till midnight. Next time when you're thinking of hiring, you might not want to hire, females. So I wonder what your view is on that, because I think that could be at the heart of the issue. That if you have to think about, there are certain jobs that women cannot do for safety or whatever else, it then challenges your ability to not look at gender. Because when we have something to do, I'm not thinking, she's a lady. We just have to get it done, get it done. I don't care if you're Taiwo or if you're Tayo, it has to be done, it has to be done. So I hope you get the question. The question is, are there specific roles for women? If there are, then the whole gender representation becomes a challenge.
Support program. So thank you to all our panelists. Thank you so much for your great contributions. I have one contribution and a question. So my contribution is mainly in terms of how women talked about sponsorship. So it's not really about mentoring, but giving women opportunities. I remember when I started my career, my boss gave me unthinkable tasks like find consultants. I didn't know where to find them. I had to Google them. Contacted them. I just had a baby. I traveled to 5 states with my mom traveling all over with me. But that set the basis for where I am today. So it's important that you give women opportunities. In terms of my question, I would want to ask all of you, perhaps if you have examples of how you dealt with these frustrating times where things don't go your way. Like if you've had a meeting and someone really pissed you off, and as a woman, they say, okay, women are really emotional, and you really want to cry, what do you do? I think it's very important. And how did you get to a point where you were able to control yourself? And do you have interesting stories to share about that moment for you? And just a comment my husband said when we all get here, just one last comment. He said he thinks that the speakers you have were designed for men. I think it's true. So we should also think about how we design things, because it's important. That's where the story starts.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Joy Ogaji. I have a question as well as a comment, but before I go on, I want to say thank you, Nextier and the organizers for bringing these hefty women of timber and caliber of the sector to come and talk to us from their wealth of experience. Sitting down here, I'm glad that I came, and hearing from them, I'm so challenged. I was thinking I was actually making some progress, but hearing from them, I think I need to start again. My question is, how can the ladies who are here already seated, how can they be involved in the power sector? Because now all that we're talking about is go down to the junior secondary, train them there, during hiring, let's consider mentoring or sponsorship and all the rest. I'm sure there are some ladies here, because I think some of them have called me before, asking, how do I get into the power sector? Now that leads me to my comments. I got to the power sector this way. I did my first degree, second degree, third degree, oil and gas. I'm from the Niger Belt, I'm a militant. So all I have been reading is strategizing how I can protect my oil facilities. So my first degree, second degree, PhD, oil and gas. Then like as Mrs. Naji said, I'm one of the ambassadors of geometric power. Then there was this call by Professor Batinaji for my husband to come back. We were in the UK, and that we should come back for my husband to assist. And after 6 months of leaving my husband here in Nigeria, I saw that the man was not going to survive. We married, and then straight, just not up to 2 weeks in Nigeria, we lived all over there. And now he came back on his own, he was just lost. When I visited and I saw his state, I said, no, I have to come back. So I came back. On coming back, now I've resigned from my jobs over there. I was working as a solicitor and lecturing in Coventry University. I resigned to come and join him so that he can survive his new role.
Did you get the question?
Yes. So now, okay, now the comment which I say I want to make is, I came back and now I saw that oil and gas, there was no vacancy for me to go into oil and gas, even if I want to go, not at that top level where I'm coming from. So how do I get into the job market? I searched around and I heard that his boss has a company, Geometric Power. So I said, I would like to do voluntary. He said, voluntary? These are terminologies that are very familiar in the UK, not here. I said, I will try. So he introduced me to his boss. I applied, she was the MD, and they agreed for a voluntary. Just allow me work, no pay. I got in there and I was taken to the head of, to the legal department. Now the head of legal then was, according to us, we lawyers, he was my junior at the bar. But I had to work under him because I want to get experience. So I did that for 3 months, and within 3 months, I got a job to work with the Presidential Task Force. And now today, you call me an expert. This is where I started. Yeah. If you want to enter the power sector, make some sacrifices, make some contacts, and see how you can get in.
Thank you. My name is Deborah. So my question, thank you for sharing your experiences. I've learned so much from it. My question is for all the panelists. So I actually run a project that trains women in physical computing and also creates awareness around sustainable energy technology for youth in schools. So in line with what you said, supporting young women getting into the sector, I'm not trying to preempt you or lead you to my project, but I just want to know if your organizations or your office would be interested in supporting such initiatives to give women skills, because I think that one very important thing is building skills, because without skills then you're not relevant in the sector. So I just want to know if your organization would be interested in supporting such projects. Thank you, Deb.
And the comment I want to make is in terms of how do we build the critical mass. And there's a project that we are supporting called Lady Mechanics. They are based in Lagos. What I like about Lady Mechanics is, one, is a gender bending intervention. It challenges our norms, it challenges our values, it challenges our assumptions. And they are also focusing on out of school. You know, initially it started as these are our sisters who are deported from Italy, and they come here, they don't have anywhere to do, anything to do. So they are not looking at the graduates or the people in the undergraduate university, but these are really poor people. Poor people on the streets of Ajegule, in Wari, and other people who whose skills are necessary, because if you look at, they can be self-employed, so they don't have to be employed by anybody. If you train them like as mechanics, as motor mechanics. So initially it was essentially motor mechanics. But one of the things that they have done over the years is to look at what are the other sectors in terms of engineering that they could intervene. So they are doing on power, so generators, for example. Every Nigerian has a generator. They are looking at refrigerators. They are looking at drivers. I mean, we didn't have, and one of the good things about it is that, all the surveys that we have done, looking at Kocharis, Tata Motors and others, all of them have been employed by those companies. And these are people who really, as I said, lower level people, out of school, poor people, children of poor people who are living in poverty, who really just want to have a second alternative so they can make their lives better and other things. So I think that if we are thinking about going into the big sectors and others, I hope that we're also thinking about the poor people, the people who cannot really afford to go to school, but people who can be trained, who are trainable, people who can learn to be a mechanic, a motor mechanic, who can be trained as a generator mechanic, a water pump mechanic, a driver, and others, who I think, for me, that will be the future for the country, especially for the poor people of this country.
Okay. Thank you. So, Patrick asked about if there are actually certain jobs that are cut out for women, and I believe, Dami, you wanted to answer that question.
You do everything that you need to do to show people how hardworking you are. So I don't agree with not being at the transmission station, apart from if it's a real safety hazard. But I don't see how it could be it could be a real safety hazard, but the men can be there, but you cannot be there. You know what I mean? We have issues, we have some environments that you don't go into, but my men and my women, all my staff don't go. It's not the men can go, but the women can go. So you really have to make that conscious decision yourself, and nobody can make it for you. So I don't think there should be female-specific jobs. You have to know what you're going into.
Very good response. And Mrs. Indaji would like to respond as well.
I'd just like to say to the ladies here, gone are the days when you have to actually manually, physically climb the pole. Okay? Now you have buckets that actually lift you to go change the wires. So I don't see why you can't do it, unless you're using the female gender as an excuse. And that's not acceptable.
Okay. And then the next question was from, I think, Ene from GIZ. How do you deal with the frustration? How do you hold it in? How do you control yourself? You'd like to take a crack at that.
It's, what she said, I think, is a stereotype that women were very emotional. I think men are also emotional. They beat and they gossip, they can cry. But the difference is that it's emotional intelligence more like. Because you get to a stage where you are in your life, at your work, you have to have emotional intelligence. No matter how somebody is frustrating you, you have to put it together. You have to you should be blank. Nobody should see, can read through you. And I think I'm an appropriate person to say this because I think I'm super emotional. And unfortunately, I worked with a boss that she wasn't emotional. When I'm sad, she can tell. Give me, what is it? She can just tell. And it got to a point where she was like, you have to try to make sure that you're not like a book. It can help you during negotiations. You can enter that boardroom blank. Your fellow negotiator will not know what you're going to say next. So because you're a woman doesn't mean you should be transparent. All your emotions, if you don't like somebody, it's written all over your face. If you can't stand someone, and if somebody frustrates you, you cry. Emotional intelligence is very key, and I think for women that are at the executive level, we should try to buy that culture. Like, you can bring in a consultant to teach the people working for you how to be emotionally intelligent, because women, we have a lot of issues we deal with. We multitask, we go back home, our husbands annoy us, we come to the office, somebody says something, you snap the tray file at the person. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, so we have to have that emotional intelligence at that level.
I think it takes time. If you need to cry, go and cry. Go into your office, cry, and come back. Don't feel like you can't be yourself. But Emma is right about the emotional intelligence. I am still learning. I am not the best person. If anybody's been in a meeting that's heated with me, sometimes I'm saying, I said this and I'm holding everything inside. So it's something that takes years, you know, it's something that you learn to develop in yourself. But if you really need to get started, go, wow, cry, dry your tears, and you come back. And you're stronger with it. It's not your bad.
So we just have 5 minutes, so just 5 minutes to answer the next 2 questions. Please, we can just respond very, very briefly. So Deborah wanted to know how your organizations could help her initiatives to build skills. I believe that was a question. Deborah, Mrs. Inaji, I think you already mentioned geometric power. Sorry?
Give me a call and we can talk about it.
Okay, very good. Deborah, you heard that. Very good. So hopefully you have a potential sponsor. And then Mr. Kola Shetty, privileged, both educationally and economically. So I think that's the last question. I'd like to please let us give these phenomenal women a round of applause. All very busy. Thank you. Join me in wishing them even more success, more strength, more focus, and more impact. And I believe Nextier will give us some closing remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tola Coker, and I'm an analyst with Nextier Power. On behalf of the Nextier Power team, I would like to thank you all for attending today's event. We appreciate your presence here, and to our dynamic panelists, we thank you. Mrs. Ime Okun, Mrs. Tamilola Okunbi, and Mrs. Agatha Naji, thank you. To our moderator, thank you. And our sponsors, MacArthur Foundation, thank you. To the audience, you could have been anywhere else today, but you chose to be here. So thank you for attending. And before I forget, thank you, Thought Pyramid, for giving us this beautiful space. Also, the results from the previous surveys have been released on our website for your information. Please look through it and let us know your thoughts. We have food and drinks in the back, so you can continue to network and have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.